Welcome to the Lost Holocron podcast, a Star Wars podcast where we give you everything from around the galaxy. I am your host, Didge, and with me, of course, I had to bring some of my favorite Star Wars fans. Juwaan from GVN, say hello.
What's going on, everybody?
You could have gave more than that, but it's cool. It's the first episode. I get it.
Hello. Mine is going to be even worse. Just saying.
And AJ, also from GVN.
Yo.
Oh, yeah, I don't like either of that. We'll get that together next episode. But today, obviously, it's the first podcast. Definitely just going to talk about everything Star Wars, from video games, movies, comic books, conventions, all of it, just from a different lens. And I think the easiest way to start out today, on the heels of its release, are our first impressions for Jedi Survivor. So, AJ, I think you're the furthest in the game. So give me, you're further than him. Okay.
I mean,
so then, Juwaan, we'll start off with you.
No. Based off of what you were telling. Oh wait, no. That is true because AJ didn't reveal anything else. Okay. All right. I'll give it to you, AJ. I forgot. I was based on what you said. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We'll go with you to give some of your first impressions. Remember, this game has been out as of the time this gets released a week, so please do not spoil it for these people who may have just started.
Okay. Well, first off, I'll say this is a true PS5 game. We haven't gotten that in a while, actually. It's been a pretty long time since we actually got a great game for the PS5. And Star Wars Jedi Survivor is one of those. The graphics are beautiful. I love the chemistry between Kyle and I can't remember the guy's name, but him as well. I love the chemistry. Love seeing the old crew back. I'm loving everything. The photo mode, I'm addicted to it. The score, love it.
I haven't taken a picture yet.
Look, everything about that game, it's probably going to take me a while to finish it because I get distracted easily, and that game has a lot of things going for it right now. So yes, I'm loving it so far.
All right. I mean, I've seen all your pictures on Twitter, and the fact that you were geeked enough to when you came back with, was it the art director that liked it? That is a good feeling. Clearly you're taking good photos with it. I haven't taken a picture yet, so maybe I should get on that. Juwaan, what about you? What are some of the things? I guess what are your first impressions? I know we talked a little bit beforehand.
Yeah, this definitely is. I believe this game, if we're talking about just this calendar year, has already etched itself as game of the year. I'm not saying that it's head over because everything else hasn't come out yet. I'm just saying it's placed its name up there for game of the year. Whether something beats it, we got to see when other things come out. But this game should be making Spider-Man sweat a little bit. That's all I'm gonna say. It should be making Spider-Man sweat just a little bit. No, I am with AJ. I don't use the photo mode as much as he does. He very much uses it like the chick that likes to take photos of your dinner every time you trying to just eat. But it is beautiful. I mean, there's so much about this game that you want to take photos of because the planets are beautiful. It's expanding the Star Wars lore, mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also growing new things to Star Wars that maybe, run-of-the-mill fans might not be too familiar with. Even hardcore fans might not be too familiar with. The playability is probably my favorite so far. I won't go into it because a lot of the playability is stuff that you got to unlock, so I don't want to obviously spoil it.
Yeah.
For me to tell you how beautiful it is and the playability is my favorite should let you know how stacked this game is. If you are thinking about buying it and you weren't sure, go buy it. Go buy it ASAP. This game is great.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else you can say without getting into spoiler territory. But I think earlier you were saying that this might have knocked Force Unleashed off of the throne of best Star Wars game.
Yeah.
And we're 2 days in at the time of recording. So you're probably still pretty early in the game, and I already feel that way is wild.
Yeah.
Now I'm not gonna lie, hot take. I thought I thought Fallen Order knocked that off for best Star Wars game. So
Okay.
I think
You know
what?
To be honest, I don't have an argument against that. The only reason why I still had Force Unleashed or Force Unleashed 2, whichever one, better than
Fair.
Fallen Order was only because I enjoyed the story more. This story so far has me on the edge of my seat every little step I take into the.
And I will say, with the Force Unleashed, I still haven't seen like the way that the Force powers were used there. I still haven't seen them used since like that. And like you get pretty damn close here, but man, I remember the first time playing that where you could literally rip trees apart. You're ripping anything apart.
Yep.
And that was what you wanted in a Star Wars game forever. So I can understand someone, even if they say now that that's your number one Star Wars game, but you can't knock this out of top 2, top 3. Like this is easily, like I said, top 3 at the minimum Star Wars game. I'll probably put it number 1 as well because everything I liked about Fallen Order, it expanded upon, even to the little things like, I don't know if you guys noticed, when you jump and you're landing, you can see the hair fly up because of the physics of the hair.
Yep.
So
I even noticed that when you fall off the map, his hair goes up.
Yeah,
like the air is carrying the hair as he's falling.
Even when you're riding down a zip line, you can see the hair like flow backwards. Yeah.
Yep.
So like stuff like that it's insane how detailed they made sure to make the world. You can definitely see that they put their mark on it, and the story so far where I'm at has been fun. So I think, like you said, it hits new Star Wars fans, it'll hit old Star Wars fans, and it's something compelling for everyone. So I definitely think it's, like you said, worth a buy. You should have it already.
Yes.
And if you were waiting for a sign that tells you to go buy it, well, this is definitely it.
And again, I want to remind people, we are still, because it does give you a percentage of like how far you are in the game. I guarantee you. Wait, would you say
I haven't looked at it.
Yeah.
So I have no idea how far I am.
So the only reason why I paid attention to it is, I was saying it before, certain parts were tricking me, so I needed walkthroughs. So the only way to prevent myself from going too forward in the walkthrough and spoiling myself, basing it off of when they got to, the save point, right, where you meditate, it'll show you like 15% or 10%. So I based it off of where I'm at, and I'm like, mine specifically says 10.4. Let me go forward into the walkthrough to where it says 10.4.
I thought that was how much you were done on this planet, like with all like the unlockables and like, or like
the
crates and stuff.
That's probably what it means. Yeah, that's probably what it means.
Okay, so it's not like through the full story.
No, not through the full story.
Okay,
that's when you go into the main menu before you actually hit the game. You'll see the percentage on.
That'll tell you, right?
Oh, okay. I'm going to look at that too.
None of us, I believe, are anywhere near the end of this game. We're still very fresh in this game.
No.
Only
and if we feel
I might be like 6.
If we feel this way this early, go get the game.
Yeah. Are you guys playing it with I think it's like cinematic mode or whatever? Yes. So like you absolutely can't skip.
I'm going on performance mode first, then I'm going back.
No, not like I'm talking about. It's the one where you absolutely can't skip the cutscene.
Oh yeah.
Because like that's the other thing. I know some people, no matter how much they like a game, they're like, "Oh, I just skip cutscenes." Nope. This definitely isn't a game where you should do that.
Well, to me, there are certain games, so I won't be a hypocrite. There are certain games I just don't care. Like I told you before, Hitman, I will never care about the storyline in Hitman. But these are story-driven games. I don't consider Hitman a story-driven game.
You know what? That's fair. I was just thinking about, I don't know the storyline of Hitman because I think I skipped it every time.
Skip it every time. I have no idea, but this is very much story-driven. Please allow yourself to immerse yourself into this world. Because you never know. Some of these things you see in these games, you might see down the line in live action. So just make sure you know what's going on.
That is true. And you know what? That was actually a perfect celebration of what the meat of what I want to get into today. I want to start some of the talk on Star Wars Celebration. Obviously, that was at the beginning of last month. But now that we've sort of been able to settle in with a lot of the news that was given out, little other things that have sort of trickled out ever since then. I wanted to sort of dive deep into each era, I guess was sort of the best way to put it. Starting with the Dawn of the Jedi. I know that's the James Mangold film set 25,000 years before. I can't keep calling it current time because Luke's time, or not even Anakin's time, isn't current time. So I can't keep calling it that. But it is set 25,000 years before that. At according to the name, the Dawn of the Jedi. I wanted to know, what are some of the things, theories, people who you're expecting? Like, what are some of the things that you guys are hoping to see with this? Obviously, is it going to pull from some of the stuff that we had learned before that are now legends? I know there have been stories told through this era before, but this is, I guess, going to be the most concrete way we're moving forward with it. Juwaan, I'll start with you. What are some of the things that you're hoping for?
And for James Mangold's movie, right?
In general, like I don't know if his movie is going to be a trilogy or not or anything. They haven't really said. So right now we're thinking it's the one film, but where do you think that they will go with sort of that era as a whole?
Well, James Mangold is introducing the mainstream audience to the birth of the Jedi.
Right.
So for me, what I would like from his movie or movies, and Daisy Ridley returning as Rey, what I would like from her movies is reinvent the Sith. Reinvent the Sith,
Okay.
because unfortunately, when you look at it, Vader to Kylo Ren is essentially the same thing, right? And again, we know why. It's a grandfather to grandson. You're not trying to necessarily separate it. You're trying to reinvent the wheel for the new generation. Don't do that this time. Completely change. That's why I shout out to Trayvon. If you want to make the Sith fly, make them fly. You want to make them like whatever species, do that. You know, because now you have the freedom of, you're not, like me and AJ were talking about this, like as much as we love Malgus is not in the timeline of James Mangold's movie, right? He's not drastically far from it, but he's not in that.
He is. No, he is.
He's in that timeline?
No, he's far from it.
Gotcha. I was about to say, not in that timeline, but I got you. Okay.
No, I think he's like 5,000-6,000 years from where all of the Skywalker saga would have started. So I can't see this movie lasting 3,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So either way, this one is supposed to be 25,000. That'd be wild.
That's what I'm saying. You have the freedom to just recreate the Sith in your vision, you know? So that's really what I want to see Star Wars do, because to me, I think for however cool you want your good guys to be, they're only as cool as the bad guys, right? That's why whenever you see bad guys, they always look the coolest, right? So for me, it's like, just do something we've never seen before. And that's what I believe should be the measuring stick for anyone directing Star Wars going forward. What can you do that is something I can't say, well, bruh, George did this when he did blah, blah, blah. Or JJ tried to do this when he did blah. Do something we've never seen before. Reinvent the wheel, in the sense of when we look back 25 years from now, we'll go, bro, the Sith are like this now. I never thought Sith could do A, B, and C. So that's what I would like to see, because to me, the Jedi are only as great as whoever their villain is, you know? So that's the challenge I would like to lay to whoever the director will be for Daisy Ridley's movies. And I keep forgetting the director's name. Directed Logan.
James Mangold.
Gosh dang, I can never remember his name. James Mangold. That is what I would like for them to be creative in the essence
of. Okay, that makes sense. I definitely want to touch more on that part, on whether the Jedi being only as good as the Sith, to your point of, the good guy's only as good as the bad guy. But AJ, my question for you is sort of different. So, have you read the Dawn of the Jedi comic books?
I read the first five. I read the first arc of it. Yes.
Okay, so I had assumed you did. I actually haven't read them. So, how would you feel if this film is almost a live action adaptation of it, a la how they do the MCU, where it takes core elements. It obviously doesn't take the storyline essentially, but it takes core elements of what the comic already sort of given out. Because I think that comic is Legends, not necessarily canon.
Yeah, it's Legends from Dark Horse.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I agree. I really do hope they borrow a lot from that, because there's a lot they can do with that specific era and that specific what should I call it? Mythology. You have the Jedi with the apostrophe. There's with the apostrophe Jedi. Is a whole lot different from the Jedi that we know of today. The Jedi were more balance focused, so they were more between good and evil, and they had to make sure they were in balance and all of that. So to get that difference between the Jedi from today will be a huge benefit for the Star Wars franchise to to update, I should say, to update the whole lore of Star Wars and to do something different than what we've gotten before. Just like what Juwaan was saying, I would like that. I would like to see the Sith in there, but in the whole comic, there was no Sith. It was the Despot Army, which took a lot from that, and you can use that, and then you can use the Despot Army to make the Sith more understandable, or not even understandable, but to get people to understand the Sith a lot more within the future, because they do have the same mannerisms between the Despot Army and Sith as we know them today. So to get that within this series will be really cool. I'm hoping that this isn't a solo movie. I'm hoping it's maybe a double movie, maybe a trio, maybe something like that. I think there's a lot you can do within this era. Well, of course, there's 25,000 years, so yeah. There you can just do a lot, and then there's the pilgrimage that takes force sensitive people from other worlds, and you can, and then they put them on a separate world where they have to like constantly use their force abilities on that world, or the world would just become in a disarray. So basically, that specific world is very force sensitive, and if you don't have force sensitive powers or just force sensitive, you can't test the force, then that specific world it'll be a disaster, like tsunamis, earthquakes, all of that.
They basically just send you to death. Like, if you're not good enough,
exactly.
That's
and
wild.
That's where the war comes in, because a lot of the parents or a lot of the force sensitive people that had kids had to get rid of their kids and send them on a distant moon, and then that right there created a war between the Despot Army and, I should say, force sensitive, since they're not Jedi right now. But there's a whole lot you can do with this. So yeah,
I will say one of the things I would like James Mangold to focus on, because I think the ideology will definitely go over for a lot of the mainstream audience, is because, like AJ was saying, there is no Sith, right? So it's the idea of, instead of you focusing on the idea of Sith or no Sith or whatever, structure the Jedi to have one be like the Magneto, one be like the Professor X, to where essentially the Jedi broke down from a difference of opinion, right? On how you rule, on what Jedi means, on the true definition. You know, essentially, and I want to be careful when I say this, essentially use it like faith. right? To where everyone believes in a god, but everyone believes in different ideologies of that said faith, right? So
That's
I'm like, if
fair.
you break it down that way, you can break it down to where it starts to become the birth of what the Sith end up being, because it's just the difference of ideologies. There's no red lightsabers. There's no bleeding crystals. I think that should be its own movie. Or if you're going to do the birth of the Jedi, do the birth of the Sith. But where you can connect it is that the character that falls from grace from that movie will become the lead, well, not the lead, but the influence of the lead
Yeah.
of the movie that's the structuring of the Sith.
Well, it's almost. I think it tells it almost itself when you're like. I think it was you, AJ, who was saying about how the Jedi, with the apostrophe. It's gonna suck knowing that we're audio only. How to differentiate? We're all about balance. By the time you get around to the Skywalker saga, whatever you want to call it, the current day, you could see the Jedi are so much about this is light and everything else is sort of dark. Like, they were very stringent on what they considered the right side of the force, and that's a far deviation from their beginnings. So I think you do get a chance to tell, well, how did the Sith come about? Because now at some point they're going to start becoming more firm and firmer in, well, this is what the right side of the force is supposed to be. We're supposed to espouse all of this other stuff. And to your point, Juwaan, it's going to become that situation of, well, this isn't what we were taught. Why are we going away from this? And when you become disillusioned, that's when you break away. I mean, we saw it with Anakin. He became disillusioned because he couldn't get what he wanted. Things didn't seem to make sense to him. And of course, obviously he was manipulated in that, but a lot of what he felt was correct in the Force and what he felt made sense. The Jedi Council immediately was like, well, this is how it's supposed to be because this is how it always was. And this is
right, and that's why that was one of the things that frustrated me about George, is that he didn't focus enough on man, why am I forgetting his name? Obi-Wan's master. Qui-Gon, thank you.
Qui-Gon.
Sorry, I'm completely spacing out today. They didn't focus enough on Qui-Gon because his ideologies were direct kind of it was a difference in ideology on what he was supposed to do compared to what he wanted to do. Because you were never supposed to have feelings, right? Jedi aren't supposed to have feelings. It's a duty, right?
Right.
It's supposed to be feelings are left out. He loved Anakin. He cared for Anakin. Anakin was like the son. Sound really messed up to Obi-Wan. Was like the son he had always wanted, right? Because Obi-Wan was very much down to the last detail. This is what I'm supposed to be. It's why if you watch Star Wars: The Clone Wars, what really hurt was watching Obi-Wan watch Duchess Satine die, because his immediate reaction is anger, but you see him close it, and he's very wise in what his next steps are. It's why Maul wasn't able to kill him. Maul was trying to get him off his game, but you can't because Obi-Wan is so down to the last detail. So it's like, I want to see the idea of how do you combat that when you have a Jedi that knows the rules, but he perceives them differently than how everyone else does. Because I don't believe there's one way to look at it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might not be canon anymore. I swear the thing's getting moved to non-canon. I get what you mean by it. Yep. It messed up a lot of memories. But I know the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, that was built on the Sith Shrine, right? Or is that no longer canon?
It's still canon. You sure?
It's still canon.
Yeah, that's still canon. Okay. It was explained in Clone Wars.
So I know that was supposed to be the reason why they were just subtly being corrupted, I guess, for however, because I think that was built like 5 millennia ago or whatever.
Well, it was around around Malgus era when they took the Jedi Temple and created it as the Sith Temple,
right?
And then got recreated into Jedi Temple. But I do like the thing with Qui-Gon. a lot of people don't understand is that I know a lot of people say that Qui-Gon follows the Gray Jedi code, but I don't believe that. I do believe that he follows the Jedi code.
Yeah.
Instead.
Okay.
So a lot of his beliefs revolves around that originality of the Jedi. So to get more of that within this and to see the understanding of that specific code, I would like to see.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I think this might be a question more for you guys because I didn't read those comics, so this is gonna be all new to me. Are there any characters that y'all like specifically are like, man, I hope that they bring them back or they bring them up or whatever?
I'd rather have new characters. Right. You can have new characters.
Yeah, story is what's more important here. You get the story right. I don't really care what characters you bring in. Yeah, to me, this is not like this isn't like I said. Once we get to the Malgus era, and then there's Revan, and then like it Bane. You know, once you get to that era, yeah, those characters matter. But it's funny because even in that era, and AJ, you know, is more knowledgeable than I am because I don't remember any. I don't remember any Jedi from the Malgus and Revan era that I care about enough to say once we get there, I need this specific Jedi.
I mean, you got Revan,
right? But once he deviated from it, like ain't nobody else. So no, I won't hold.
Speaking of which, my Revan figures.
Yep, right there.
There you go.
So no, I will not hold a specific character to James Mangold's movies, but the story is what's more important. Is that he hits the correct story or story points in the creation of this movie.
So I know we're getting into the Malgus, well, kind of the Malgus era, because I want to talk about the Old Republic. I know this was something that has probably the most open-ended because yes, it was on the graphic where they showed all of the eras that they want to hit, but correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see any other property really attached to it. Like, other than this ongoing live service game, that's the only thing I could think that's attached to this era. So I really wanted to explore this because I've played the game intermittently. Computer gaming is always tough for me because I consistently get new computers and I lose access to stuff. But I know there are great stories from the games. I've played some, like I said, some of it throughout. I'm curious about where would you like them to go with this era if they're saying that it's attached. So then what are we doing with it? That's sort of what I want to explore. Like, what are we doing and what do we want to see?
Or the Old Republic or the High Republic?
Yeah. The Old Republic. We are going to get into the High Republic also. But I like I said, when they were showing the graphic for all of the eras, they had the Dawn of the Jedi, the Old Republic, the High Republic. I forget what they called like the Clone Wars era. They might have. Then they had the Fall of the. I think it was like Fall of the Jedi. Then they had the. I should have just pulled it up. But we're gonna see. I can do this from memory. Then they had the
Fall of the Jedi.
Oh, do you have it?
Reign of the Empire.
All right. Well, here we go.
Age of the Rebellion. Then you have the New Republic, which is the Mandalorian era. Then you have Age of the Resistance, which is or Rise of the First Order, which is the Force Awakens and all that. And then you have the Old Republic.
And completely off topic. This is completely off topic. They better show that the First Order was in charge for more than that trilogy. Like that better not have been their reign, because then we're saying the First Order was in charge for like a year and a half, and that makes that trilogy even worse.
Mandalorian ended with you getting seeds, because remember that was Hux's father. So I'm like, I think the seeds of it are there, and I think what they're trying to allude to, which again upsets me, and I both understand you're trying to make sense of a lot of what those three movies were doing. I think they're trying to say Moff Gideon essentially started to crack the code that Palpatine ends up using to become Snoke. Right. So I think this is the birth of that order. I think that's where we're heading to. It just won't be like, I don't think you could say the end of the movie that ends this whole universe is the birth of it. You could say it.
It has to be. It has to be. you got to give me at least, like, I get you may not have centuries or whatever. You got to give me at least the First Order was in charge for, like,
I believe that
10
movie
years.
should end with Snoke. I think it should. That way it ties everything in, and we don't have just this massive gap that we're assuming.
Well, you have a lot of those stories in the comics where it focuses on like Kylo and Luke and all of that. You still have all those
For
things.
sure, but they don't give timelines. That's what we're trying to say. From where we are now to where Force Awakens begins. Because we know the stories, but I don't believe they've given us timelines. So I don't know. Because remember, those stories came out before The Mandalorian. So I'm like, I don't know if they ever.
We do the timeline is specifically after The Mandalorian.
Specifically, like a year after, the day after, 2 years.
Yeah, because within I would say like 15 years.
Well, remember, we're 10 to 15 years away from Force Awakens. So Didge is saying that if you're telling me in the course of those 10 years you rose into power and you've been doing things, no problem. We just need that to be definitive so that we know. Because, again, Force Awakens begins where it's just like, they're here. And it's like, well, did they start or have they always been here? Right. Because, again, the biggest problem was when Kylo was fighting Rey. You guys remember this. What was the biggest issue diehard Star Wars fans had when Rey fought Kylo? Is that she just got the Force and she got the best of him. So my question was leaving that movie was, if she got the best of him, is this because this is his first Jedi he's ever fought? Like, has he killed other Jedi? We know he killed other like-minded Sith individuals because that's how he inherited the Knights of Ren. But actual Jedi, has he killed other Jedi?
Well, and we're also led to, I guess they're not full-fledged Jedis, but he at least took out some of the ones of Luke's school.
No,
I know.
It
was the fire that killed him.
They showed him leaving.
That's right.
He let actually partners, I should say, friends go.
Right.
And they followed him multiple times, but he never specifically like killed them.
Because I don't believe the true hate in Kylo's heart started till a little while after. Because remember, he was horrified to watch the fire destroy everything. He didn't do the fire on purpose. So that's what I'm saying. That movie made it seem like Kylo, that was his first time fighting a Jedi, and it caught him so off guard, she just got the best of him. But that's why I'm like, so much of those three movies make absolutely no sense. So I'm with you, Didge, and I would like to know, stamped, canon or canonically, what is the timeline from when the First Order had began? We know when they ended, but when did they start?
Right.
And I think that's fair to ask.
And like I said, if we're trying to button up eras so that way they can continue to dip in in and out of every one of them.
Right.
Well, give me what am I looking at time wise? That's the only thing with that. But talking about I guess like I said, the Old Republic again. There's no listed property other than the game that's coming out. So this one is just something we could have a little fun with. Just about like, what are some of the things that we want to see? Like personally, just from knowing Revan's story, I would love to see that. That can be a series. I don't necessarily need it to be a movie because I'm trying to get away from everything having to be a movie. You don't.
I think Revan's
what are you saying?
Character to reduce to just a show.
I need a cinematic. Yeah. I need a cinematic.
But you can do cinematic shows. I'm not saying it has to be a one-season show. You can do. So you telling me a Game of Thrones style show where you're getting 4, 5, 6 seasons?
Is Disney going to do that?
Game of Thrones.
Because we've been hearing about that since they took the Game of Thrones directors, and we still don't have that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'll tell you this. I'll take a show about the birth of Revan, right? But Revan in his glory needs to be on the big screen. That needs to be, you could build up to making the Knights of the Old Republic movie, right?
So they can basically do Mandalorian style where you have all the
and then you have it lead to that. I'll take that, but only one season of each. not multiple seasons, one season, all to build up to the movie.
Really?
100%. Because my issue is, we only got on this,
Really?
I'll take it in show form, because they were messing up with the movies. So it put off a lot of people on the idea of, well, maybe you don't need movies because your shows are so much better than the movies you're putting out right now, right? But we can't allow that to be the status quo, right?
Well, that's not why I'm saying it. I'm more saying it because a movie you're looking at 3 hours tops. Let's say 3.5 if you really want to be bold. I'm gonna be pissed, but I'm gonna sit there and watch it. Of course, I'm gonna be pissed at a 3.5 hour movie. Like, I was mad when the Batman came out and it was 3 hours. I was mad at Endgame. I was mad at all of these movies. But with a show, if you're giving me 10, let's say 8 to 10 episodes that are 30 to 40 minutes each, think about how much more time you really have to tell that story. Like, you don't have to crush everything down into 3 to 3.5 hours. You can tell, what is that, almost like 5-6 hours if you're doing 30 to 40-minute episodes.
That's why you can do trilogy.
That's
why you can do
sequels. I mean, but let's also be real. I don't think I don't think movies need to be 3 hours. Albeit, I still to this day feel like the Batman could have been 6 hours and I would have sat in that theater. That does not need to be the status quo for anything. You know, that should not be the bar. Like, let's try to put as much time as, no. It could be 2 hours and 30 minutes. It could be 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's all about the quality, not the quantity. You know what I'm saying? So if you make a good enough movie and that thing ends at 2:15, I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that.
No, but where movies always go wrong, I feel like when you think about a movie that failed, the first thing someone always says is that it tried to put too much
that's
into
why
little time.
AJ's
So
point
it's
is,
like,
well, just stop making movies with a singular goal, right? So where you're just like, all right, I want to introduce and end it here. Don't do that. Like, you can make two.
If you have more ideas, just split them up apart and make a.
Wait, Didge, that goes to a deeper problem Star Wars has, to where I don't think Star Wars has a war room, right? And for anyone out there, the war room is essentially what, like, the White House and stuff would, you know, come together before making big decisions on war or whatnot. Literally the name war room. I think Star Wars should have what Kevin has. Have a war room, right? Where you're putting on a board ideas, right? And you're putting out feelers. You're letting directors out there know, hey, I want to do a Revan movie, right? And then you could say, all right, you bring in, let's say you bring in AJ. And AJ from the get tells you, hey, this has to be 3 movies. You're like, whoa, 3 movies on this one guy. No. It's not just this one guy. Numerous guys I can pour into this. Right? And we're going to give it to Didge to introduce these characters on Disney Plus, right? Where you have 3 individual stories. You could even do something cool like Tales of the Sith, where it's the animation of Revan, Malgus, and Bane, right? And then if you wanted to, incorporate those, not 3, but 2 of them into Knights of the Old Republic, build it out bigger. So it's this big cinematic experience that people from all, like you said, Didge, all walks of life can get a little bit of it, right? To where there's some people that only enjoy animation from Star Wars. That's where you get it. Some that only enjoy movies. That's where you get it. So to me, you should have a war room where you're structuring, okay, I want to do Revan and Malgus. Who's interested? Right? AJ kicks open the door. How much money we got? Well, let me know where we start in that dollar amount, right? So that's just why I think you can avoid what you're saying, to where it's like you're not shoveling too much in at once. You have a war room where people are going, hey, I can take this branch and make it work here, this branch, make it work here, and then we all come together for one cinematic experience for people to...
Also, less continuity issues
as
well.
Right. Again, it does come down to what, love you, Mike. Mike and a lot of people feel, I don't want the homework. I'm sorry, but it's the best way to not shove everything in one, is to give you these different mediums.
I was okay with agreeing with Mike for Marvel. Mike, you're going to have to get over it for Star Wars. You're gonna agree with you at Marvel, because it's like, all right, fine, whatever. Star Wars, get over it. You got to do some homework.
Yeah, I don't listen to Mike when it comes to Star Wars. I'm like, no.
Mike is definitely going to be like, why am I being attacked? Sorry, Mike. I'm just saying you are the face of the word homework when it comes to having to watch everything.
I might put this up and send it to him just to let him know this is how we stand.
Oh man.
So then, since you guys shot down my starting with TV idea, what are you guys? Oh, actually, the Knights of the Old Republic video game. I guess that would fall under this. Do you think the remake is still happening then?
I mean, I definitely think it should, because I mean, I think we live in a world now where buzz can come from anywhere. That's why it's good to have multiple mediums when you have a conglomerate this large, is because something will catch, right? Like AJ's been swearing about the twins, right? We've been talking about the twins probably since we've known each other.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do that, but again, me and AJ were made aware because of the game, right? I do not believe that we should make people play that game if they're not gamers, right? So it's like, well, make that into a show or make that into a movie, you know? So I think Star Wars should not limit themselves, right? I think if somebody comes to you with an idea for a manga, a comic book, a TV show, an animated series, or a movie, you take everything. So I think you do the remaster because you do have an audience that swears by Star Wars games, right? I mean, we started off this show by talking Star Wars gaming, right? So it's like, do that and let that maybe be what lets Kathleen Kennedy know people want the twins. Okay, all right. Let's move forward with Malgus, Revan, the twins down the line. Let's do it all, right? So for me, it's like, do the little things. And that's why I think Star Wars, quite like DC, have the sense of you're such a massive name that people just know you off of the mention of your name, right? That you sometimes forget about the small steps, right? You want to immediately go to Justice League, and I don't even know who Flash is yet. Like, do the small things. So do the game. Let the game be something that leads to the show or the movie. And then from there, they're household names that do what you've been saying, Didge, adds awareness to other people outside Skywalkers. So for me, start with the small steps. Put the game out.
That's fair. I'm just gonna be, selfish and say, look, bring the game out so I can enjoy it again. Yeah. Like, I don't have anymore, so I need to be able to play. I need to be able to play that again. So I don't have my Xbox anymore. So bring it out so that way I can just enjoy it again. And like I said, you need properties if you're going to put this on your. Like I said, I'm just gonna call it era sheet, where you're saying these are all of the eras that we're hitting, and for every other era you're doing something in, you can't just keep telling me it's because I'm putting out a new expansion pass for this game. Like, I think that game came out, I think I was in college, so that was what?
Yeah, AJ, that was 2010? You were just starting kindergarten, right?
Like,
yeah.
Yikes. Yikes.
No, but all jokes aside, you definitely have to.
When that game came out, oh wait, no, I Google almost messed me up. I was gonna say there's no way this game came out 03. The Knights of the Old Republic came out 03. Oh, it did come out 08 though. So they're worse than Grand Theft Auto.
But the difference is you have like a million Star Wars
a lot of content that came in.
That's where it's a little different.
True. But look, that's fair. But look, I don't care. Give me more from this era. If you're going to list this era as something that, again, that you're saying is part of our onslaught going forward, don't behold it just to video games, because to your point earlier, everybody doesn't play video games, and they're going to be missing out on stories that are great. Like, I don't know how many people outside of, well, I think enough people talk about it to some point, who may know Malgus, the twins, and all of them. Because if you haven't played the game, or if you're not talking to people who have played the game, what does it really mean to you? You just think it's something that they put together just for that. And that's a huge disservice, because it goes back to what I'm always saying. If you're going to say that we want to expand beyond the Skywalker saga, you have to put in the effort for it.
Yeah.
And just putting out, and that sounds really shitty to the developers, because that's a lot of work, obviously, developing the DLC and the expansion packs for the game. But from a prospect or property as a whole, it's not really putting in the effort.
Mhm.
It's just beating the horse that you already know
like
is going
DC
to win.
saying, "Hey, we're only gonna do Batman games." And it's like, "Hey guys, I got something different." It's like, "Oh, something different other than Batman?" It's like, "Yep." Guess what? What? Gotham Knights. It's like, okay,
Batman.
what is that about? It's about Batman's kids. It's like, you're gonna put Batman in this game, aren't you? A little bit, a little tiny bit. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Didge. But that's why I told you before. I believe two things can be true. I believe you do need to show people that there is a world outside of Skywalker. But I also believe some of the greatest Star Wars stories are about the Skywalkers. So it's like, you got to find the medium. You got to find the medium. Like, think about it. We saw the birth of Luke.
You're not wrong.
And the death of Luke. They've ignored all the good things in between. I would like to see some of those good things in between. No. I mean Luke-centric stories. We've seen Luke in other people's stories, right? I want to see Luke-centric stories. The same way we were saying, Didge, what was the first thing me and you said right when Kenobi ended? Like, I wouldn't mind a Vader series. I'd like to see Vader killing some of these Jedi. Like, I'd like to see it, you know? So to me, I agree with you. Two things can be true. But I do think before you get to the old, you have to set a course for the new so that people know this is where we're going, right? Okay. You know, you can enjoy the old, but we're not going to stay here. This is where we're going. So that's why I said I agree with you in, well, don't jump right to Book of Boba Season 2 or Obi-Wan Season 2. Let's get some of these new shows going and flowing and creating new concepts, and then we can go back.
I ain't gonna lie.
Wait, what'd you say?
Book of Boba Season 2 in general, but beyond the point.
Well, if you could do better.
Don't need a Book of Boba Season 2 in general.
Because that should not be the last time I see Boba. that shouldn't be it.
I'm not gonna lie. I like
potentially might get him.
I also don't think that should be the next sure. The very next time we see him is 2 years from now, and it's like
he said he was supposed to be in Mandalorian Season 3. So I'm curious as to what happened there. I actually don't really know where he would have fit.
Well, I know where he could have fit. Is that if you were saying you were defending the lore of Mandalore and trying to restore it, he does have Mandalorian blood in him. I mean, if you look at the Death Watch's logo, or the Mandalorian's logo, really, and then look at his logo on his shoulder, same thing. So I'm like, you easily could have just retconned a few things.
Death Watch logo and the Mandalorian
No. That's why I corrected the Mandalorian logo, not the Death Mandalorian logo. Gotcha. Yeah, so you could have used that and had Boba helping them fight Moff Gideon. You know, you could have had that. You definitely could have. I'm not saying that that's what they should have done, but that was a way you could have did it to where it did make sense.
I think it's because of where we left off with him at the end of Book of Boba. He seemed like he was sort of, I'm just this warlord now, I guess is the best way to put it. Like he ran a town. Man, it seemed like he was ready to go and do. To go on missions.
I don't think it's narrative. I'm going to be honest with you. They might say narrative the same way actors that don't want to be in movies say, "Oh, I had to go shoot another movie, so I couldn't." You just didn't want to be in it. I think it's as simple as this. I thought they thought bringing back Boba would be a massive resurgence, like bringing back Luke or Han or Chewie, and it didn't land. Mainly because they messed up the character, but it didn't land the way that they thought it did. It is clear that when it comes to the bounty hunter, the new face of bounty hunters is now Din Djarin. You can't overtake that. It's now Din's world that Boba's living in. Rather than you doing a Boba story that then introduces Mando, but it establishes that Boba's still that guy, right? So I think you really diluted that character and diminished that character in his return. And now it doesn't have the same pop that it would have had you not messed up the character in that first season. So I think it just came down to, do we need him? And whenever you have to ask that about a character, that no good. That no good.
Yeah. Sort of when that character ran his or her, they ran their race, and it's
no
over. If we're saying
whenever they're like, does he have to? Just know you're done.
I mean, would you like to see a Book of Boba Season 2?
Nah, I'm good on that. He worked better as a cameo more than anything. That first sequence was in Mandalorian season 2 was good. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. I massively enjoyed him more in season 2 than when he came.
Well, again, because they drastically changed him from season 2 to his own show. That character's motivations and mindset are not the same, which is weird because it's supposed to be present day Boba. How did you change your mind that fast? Like, Mans went from "I will kill you all" to "Bruh, it's peace. I'm just trying to have land. Like, I'm yes. Like, it was weird. It was very weird.
It's that twin son, man.
The twin son.
Twin
yep.
sons.
No, AJ. All true Star Wars fans know it's the sand. It was the sand that messed them up.
It was too rough.
Hey, bro, Anakin ain't killed nobody until he came back home into that sand. And it was just like, kind of like it. Like, sand ruined Anakin. The sand ruined him. It ruined him.
All he did was sit
That's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to sit there and chill. Then people talking about Rancors, Black Chrysanthemum. It's like, bro, I ain't asked for none of this. Like, just wanted to rule in peace. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. I mean,
that's fair. That is
I'm
fair.
not gonna lie. I'm gonna lie, and I know that's rough. I know for a lot of fans that was like their favorite character.
I don't know how they were their favorite.
I don't know how many.
Well, to be fair, Boba Fett for a long time was one of the coolest looking characters in Star Wars. I won't fight that. He looked cool, but Mans did nothing. Mans was like the epitome of stepdad, right? So it was just like, I see you. Not mine though. But it's like, I see what you're doing though. I see what you're doing. Like, you gonna join in?
No, I'm not gonna lie. I never thought he looked cool. Like, he looked like. I'm not saying he looked bad. Don't get me, but it wasn't like I was just like, damn, Boba looking fire. Like, no. I was more. I like Darth Vader's character. Darth Vader, but
my man was looking fly.
Let's not be biased. Come on now.
Cad Bane all
Come
day,
on,
fair.
My man said Cad Bane looked cooler.
He's not wrong.
Man's had full armor and a flamethrower.
He did.
And you want me to get excited for the gunslinger? I mean, don't get me wrong. Cad Bane is that dude, but come on now.
100%. Yeah.
Come on now. I also would take Cad Bane over. But again, anyway, what are we saying?
So, we got far from the High Republic, which is the last era I wanted to talk about today. If you're reading the books, they just talked about they're entering their third phase, which is the Trial of the Jedi. So that's dope. Definitely a good series to get into. There's a bunch of books and tie-in comics. But what I'm most interested in is the fact that the High Republic is starting to bleed out into other areas outside of just publication. We're obviously, we talked about it. I don't know how to say this without spoiling parts of the game. Damn it. You're getting some High Republic, stuff within Jedi Survivor. So
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to get that.
No. Hold on. Cut yourself some slack. That's not a spoiler, because that's without any Well, not only is there zero context, but I mean, this is also not a spoiler. It's just not a character that has existed before. So it's not like we're saying like, oh, it was Darth Malgus, and like, no, you know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah,
that era, right? So give yourself credit, Didge. That's not a spoiler at all. You didn't. Yeah. There's nothing to worry about with that.
So like that, yeah. But that to that point, that's dope. Where like like I said, you're starting to get some of it to bleed out into the video game verse, and then in the Acolyte, you got a casting for a High Republic Jedi. So clearly, she's showing up in the Acolyte. Which is bringing you now into live action. So it seems like what they started off with an era that was very literary, reading comic books, reading the novels. they started to see that, well, this is something that can be useful in our live action, in our video games. I'm sure there's going to be an animation. I know like Visions is coming out. I'm sure they're going to do more animated projects where they're thinking we can do some of the stuff with the High Republic.
We're getting another
which,
season
like I said,
of Tales of the
really
Jedi.
exciting.
So to me, that's an open-ended book for any period of the history of Jedi. To me, that does not only trap it into Clone Wars or right after. And again, if we're talking about getting out of the Skywalker era, your animation cannot only be tied to Ahsoka. Like, you have to do more than... I know that AJ's getting upset. Calm down, AJ.
True.
But other people do exist outside of Ahsoka. So your Tales of Jedi Season 2 does not need to have really anybody from the Clone Wars era. You really could expand yourself to well before it. You know? So it's definitely something they should be looking at, is that your focus should be elsewhere when you're talking about the history of Jedi. Because you have people thinking that the Jedi started with old-ass Kenobi and Yoda. Then they died, gave it to Luke. Luke then died, gave it to Rey. No, that was not the start of Jedi. No, that was not the start.
Rey and so on and so forth.
I do believe that starting from now on, the Tales of Jedi should solely focus on the High Republic characters.
Solely? I don't know about
that would
solely.
Actually be really dope. Because...
Again, you can dip and dabble. It just, like, think about what this last season was. It essentially was just right around the Skywalker era. That's all it was, right? To me, I think you can dip and dabble. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you wanted to do if you wanted to explain a lot of what Rey was doing in between the end of Rise of Skywalker and the beginning of her new movie, that can be in Tales of the Jedi. Right, that's like 15 years. That could be
15 years after?
The only reason why I say this is because it's basically would be good advertisement for these characters that nobody knows, especially with all the novels coming out. Like, Avar Kriss is a fantastic Jedi, and I would love to see an episode solely focusing on her character as a Jedi Master. And then there's a lot you can do with those characters, especially if you haven't read those novels or comics, but you want to get into the High Republic era, and the movies are seeming like they're focusing on that now. So that would be great advertisement for them.
That makes sense. I do want to quickly shout out Rebecca Henderson, who is the actress who is going to be playing the Jedi Vern Rowe in the Acolyte. Just and that way, so the people who have read it, who do know, they can, get that to know, like, oh, get excited about that you're seeing them in live action. And I am really excited about the Acolyte, actually. I think it's going to be something different, something that we haven't necessarily seen. And this is, I guess, this would be the first live action foray that's completely outside of that saga, right?
I'll just say I am apprehensive because you know who they got to have in that show.
Why are you apprehensive? When is it? If they're bringing in High Republic,
I don't care. And it looked great from the little teaser we were able to sneak from Celebration. I don't got him. To me, I'm sorry.
Right.
Well, I don't think they'll have him. But they might.
Unless you're telling me that has multiple seasons and he could be in season 2. Nah, I can't buy that.
Honestly,
AJ, he is alive. Remember, this is 50 years before Phantom Menace. I'm sorry, 100 years. So yes, he 100% would be alive. Because remember, Palpatine was 50 during Phantom Menace. Right. So I'm like, you're talking about just another 50 years before that. Like,
let me see. I think you're right, but it might. That's why I said it might be like a season 2. Because if we're talking 100 years, he died 32 years, I guess, according to. And this might be. We're gonna have to. This is a fact check from Wikipedia. They're saying 32 years before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess the start of the Skywalker
that gave
saga.
Palpatine enough time to plan. Yeah, because he had to get into political power, all that. Yeah, that makes sense. That's
Well, what I was saying is, if we're saying that he died 32 years, to AJ's point, he might not be.
Well, I
a
think
season
Juwaan is
one
saying
character.
that you can still tell stories of him in that era before he dies.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I guess that makes. I guess I was just sort of saying.
Well,
saying
okay, so
100 years,
here's my
was
issue.
he
Here's
68
you
when he
guys
died?
understand this, but to the audience, here's my issue. Plagueis the Wise was essentially like the Suge Knight of that time, right? And it's like, picture telling the history of Death Row and just leaving out Suge Knight like he wasn't that important, just alluding to him. No, bro. If Plagueis was alive, I need, and I'm not saying he has to be a major, not a major, a main character. I'm just saying, if you're talking about the Sith trying to figure out what they are, what they can do, it's essentially like the death of the Sith. It's like, bruh, wouldn't Plagueis be somewhere in there? Like, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's it. It could even be a scene where the main character goes and gets information or advice from him. And that's our little bit of Plagueis. I'm just saying, don't act like the man ain't alive. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's it.
Well, you will be happy to know that according to rumors, he is going to appear.
No, Didge said it. So now if it doesn't happen,
I don't know how true it is.
I will be very angry. I'm like, Didge said it.
Don't blame me. There are rumors that he will appear, and they're calling it, the way that the rumors are saying it, is like one of the greatest twists for Star Wars since the "I Am Your Father." Don't quote me, because I don't know how true these rumors is. But that's why I was saying. Do you think it could be a season 2 thing? Because I do think that if they're trying to seems like they're leading season 1. They're saying it's a Sith-led story, but I don't know if you just jump directly to that with it being 100 years. So I'm almost thinking the way that they're saying with these rumors that it's going to be a twist is one of these characters that we meet in season 1, I'm assuming ends up being him, whether it's late in the season or season 2 or whatever. That's why I was wondering, 100%. Would you be
but
okay
I need to know that this show was meant to be more than just one season.
So, like I said, a lot. I don't know for sure. It probably end up being on how,
from the little bit the three of us saw,
or whatever. Should be a success. You're right. It should, there should be. So I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think he shows up season 1. If that's sort of what I don't want you to have to. Okay.
Because I'm not assuming anything gets a season 2 from Star Wars. That's not The Mandalorian. I'm not assuming that. I'm just not. Right?
I feel like
technically, time out. Technically, Andor is not a season 2. Technically, it's part 2 of season 1. It's because remember they said it's supposed to be like 40 to 50 episodes together. Because remember, no. Remember the part 2 ends where Rogue One begins. So it's not a season 2. It's just a part 2 of season 1. Yeah. That's how they first structured it. Not that they were 2 seasons.
That is how they. I think that's how they labeled it too. But part 2 is a season 2. Because then you're telling me Attack on Titan had 4 seasons and bullshit. I don't care what they say. I'm
just saying. Look, I'm just saying that Andor said that they dropping a mixtape, and you trying to tell me it's an album. I'm just telling you what they said. They said it's a mixtape.
They try to tell you we dropped a double disc album. Part 1 of the double disc album was this year. Part 2 is next year. And you saying, "Oh, that was all the single album."
I'm just saying, no, it's out of their mouth. It was part 1, part 2. That's all I'm saying. It's all one singular.
Well, that's like Netflix with The Witcher. You got part 1 coming up, and
there you go.
A few months later, you got part 2.
That would make sense if it's in the same calendar year. Doesn't part 2 come out next year?
Wait, didn't Stranger Things do that though?
No,
I'm pretty sure the latest season of Stranger Things did that.
Right.
Oh no,
right.
It was just
No,
one
it's
episode.
like
It was 1 hour long episode, hour and 30 minutes. Yeah. It's unheard of, but again, I'm going by what they say, and they said it's not a season 2. Just saying.
They did.
No, they did not. I think they're still filming now.
Did they film it all together? This ain't supposed to be a new season. Get out of here. This is a second season. So like I said, I really wanted to talk about those 3 eras, and the last before we get out of here, we just wanted to give the fans some ideas of some of the things that we're going to do moving forward. Obviously, we'll have these very high level episodes that are recapping some of the news that we got, so it's very news driven for some of those episodes. But I definitely want to do like some character deep dives where we do go into the story of Malgus or Revan, go into sort of it show the fans that there's more to Star Wars than the high players or the key players that we've seen so over and over again in live action. So I think that's where we're going to really get into fun with it, because we can use that to sort of quasi pitch ideas that we want to see, whether it's a book, game, or whatever. Like I said, I might be deep into this what is it, the Ubisoft open world game. We know nothing. I got a whole idea for them. Mandalorian based game, give me something. So that's going to be a lot of fun. What are some of the things that y'all want to do? I definitely don't want it to just be my ideas, obviously. Definitely a collaborative show. We'll definitely bring in guests, but I think this is probably the core that we will stick with. This will we seem to be, of our friend group, probably the most Star Wars fans. But you know, some of the gang will definitely pop in and give their takes and everything, and especially for characters that they may really be interested in, and even outside guests out of just
the deep dives is definitely something
group.
I wanted to do. So I'm definitely down with that. I'd love to do rankings of movies, rankings of shows.
Oh yeah,
definitely want to do that.
Those
definitely want to do
definitely down for that.
Top 10 Star Wars characters. I think that could be a lot of fun because there's just so many. So us figuring out who makes our collective top 10 would be a lot of fun. There's no characters to pick from. And hell, who knows?
I agree.
Maybe the more we play Jedi Survivor, we might have to keep fixing that list, right? We might go, I like this guy. So like, I might take this person out, put this person in. Just more conversation pieces, you know, where we can kind of just like let our fandom kind of just fly is definitely what I would love us to do.
Yeah. That makes sense, and it all sounds good ideas. No idea is a bad idea here.
Ahsoka
so
inspired
we're gonna do all of
just
it.
about Ahsoka. Look, AJ.
Yeah, actually, we
AJ had that little like he's spitting facts though. What we doing?
Not wrong. Not wrong.
But no, I think honestly that probably is something that we should do, especially as it gets closer to the Ahsoka coming out. Because one of my buddies, he was just when we were talking about the finale of Mandalorian, it was on our finale recap. He was like, I don't know much about Ahsoka. I had to go back and start watching the Clone Wars and sort of understanding. But he was like, I'm not gonna have time to do all of that before the series come out. So I do agree with doing a deep dive on her character, sort of hitting the highs and lows. That way, you sort of have like a refresher course before you go into her series.
Ahsoka is one of those characters, like you very much. The mainstream audience, you could probably conclude they know all they need to know about Vader, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of other cool shit Vader's done, but what they've gotten from the movies and Obi-Wan and the shows, you kind of get it. Ahsoka's a little bit more difficult because Ahsoka, you cannot pinpoint to one thing, right? So, like, I could tell you that her first meeting Anakin is important, right? Her first time leading an assignment was important. her upgrading from Padawan to a full-fledged Jedi was important. Her leaving Anakin was important. Her being arrested was important. You know, there's so many massive things of Ahsoka's life that are important, but you don't have to sit down in front of your TV for the next 4 days to consume that. We can give you that information. It is, and I will say, no matter how we say it, it will always be second place to actually seeing it, because that fight with Darth Maul was just like,
of course,
I can almost say I've never seen a Star Wars fight better. It was like ballet. It was just elegant. It was just like,
ooh.
Oh man,
that's a good episode too. What are your favorite fights? That's a really good episode. I'd have to do research because I'm very much a prisoner of the moment, and I'm gonna be like, bro, I just watched this like 2 days ago.
Because it depends. Are we putting a number to it? Because if you're saying top 5, I got 5 right now. Like,
we would have to go. Keep it. I let's talk about it off air. I want to know what you guys are saying, but I do think that's going to be a fun episode because you. I don't think you could.
That's fine.
Before I don't know if any of you do. You can't put in like
video. As long as you're telling me animation and live action count.
So.
Yeah, wait. You know what we should do to really mess up the audience? Put in a fight scene from a book, but not say that it's from a book. Have them. Why do I only see text? It's like,
oh my god!
It's in a book.
So you gotta do some reading. Matter of fact, well, you know what? Even comics will work though too, because sometimes the way they're drawn and stuff.
You say comics? Comics count?
You can get the visualization of the fight.
Bruh, that Vader fight before he bled his crystal. Live action and animation. That's all time. That was a fight. No, the fight with the Jedi.
That was not a fight.
What's a massive?
That was a massive.
He was getting in a lot of good hits though. Okay. It was a fight. It was definitely a fight. It was definitely a fight.
It was a fight.
It was definitely a fight. Yeah, I'm with you, Didge. I'm with you, Didge.
It may not have been an even fight, but it was a fight. So, yeah, no, that's gonna be a fun episode to do. But I think it's just stuff like that. You know, I want to have fun with this. I wanted to talk more Star Wars.
And I definitely will say me and Didge are going to dig into our bags. We're going to try. No promises. We're going to try to get some Star Wars familiar voices or faces or people behind Star Wars to come on here and just enlighten us with a few things, you know? Like some authors from the books would be great.
Yeah.
Some of the voice actors. I know James Arnold Taylor is somebody that loves doing podcasts. He was the voice of Kenobi on for the Filoniverse. So Didge, me and you will get together and pull our resources and get some familiar voices, faces, and pins of the Star Wars universe. Because I think
y'all get Claudia
you said who?
Gray in here. That'll be a dream come true. Claudia Gray.
Interesting. I like it.
Oh.
Or Timothy Zahn.
Yeah.
Or Timothy Zahn. I'm just saying.
I want to do things like that. I want to get some of the other super fans that we know. Like we know so many Star Wars super fans who we may not talk to them on a daily basis, but when you do get a chance to talk to them, they'll give you
AJ
they'll run you ragged with talking. So I want to get some of them on there too.
So
we get that going. So the last thing before we get out of here, I want to give you guys both some time to plug anything, your social media, anything that you got coming up, and really just show the people where they can find you and what you want them to really focus
well, we do have Much Ado About Nothing
Juwaan,
coming this Monday. We're going to be breaking down some more news that we got from CinemaCon. We got a new Transformers trailer. We got a new Flash trailer. We got a couple of things that we're definitely going to be discussing there. I'm also going to be doing a YouTube video. I definitely finally cracked AJ's pin for his credit card, so we're going shopping. So you guys can join me live as we run up his card.
Okay. Buy me something.
I got
All right,
$0 on
debt,
it,
and we plan to put you there. No, all jokes aside. No, all jokes aside. Much ado about nothing this Monday. Maybe we'll do a stream, a gaming stream tomorrow. And you can find me on.
What time? I got
after
pencil
the
that in
next
between
play, so after
my
1
Jedi
o'clock. So
Survivor
4 or 5,
playing.
maybe. All right, my apologies. In a galaxy far, far away,
we don't talk
there's
basketball
a
on here.
No. But you can find me, Geek Vibe Station, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and Twitch.
AJ, what you got for us?
Well, you can find me at Geeks Vibe Nation. I recently done a review on basically everything, so you can find me there. Twitter.
You did. I'm like, that doesn't
AJ
limit anything.
No,
so I'm like, okay,
review
all right,
on everything.
It's on everything.
Is this one? You didn't do one video that was reviewing life. What are you?
Video. It was no. I'm a writer for Geeks Vibe Nation.
Specify.
I get that, but you didn't. It wasn't. You saying like, is that? Like, can I give us some? Like, you can't. I reviewed everything. Somebody's gonna like, where's your Cheerios review? They're like, someone's gonna.
What is one of the things you reviewed?
Where's your review on this water?
I recently done 65. I did that, and Operation Fortune. Ruse 2.
You didn't do Evil Dead?
Can't even pronounce the word. Gray. No, I didn't do Evil Dead. I didn't do
Gotcha.
it. Somebody already took that one from me, so yeah. And you can find me on Twitter, AJ_Geeks5. I'm always on there 24/7. So if you want to argue, talk.
Ain't that the truth?
What did you say? I'm the
I feel like no matter what time of day I log on, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I'm just scroll Twitter for a bit till I fall back asleep, and I'll see a tweet within 10 minutes. It'll say like this tweet was 10 minutes ago. I'm like, bro, aren't you supposed to be asleep?
I work. Look, when you guys are asleep, I'm at work.
You work third shift?
I believe even when AJ's home, he's lying to the audience. AJ is tweeting as we are talking about AJ tweeting.
But I wasn't gonna put him out there like that.
I think you sleepwalk and tweet in your sleep.
You might tweet in your sleep. Yeah.
Dang.
I swear there have been a time where we were like, hey, we're playing Overwatch, we're playing Fortnite, I'm going to sleep. And then 30 minutes later, I've seen a tweet and I'm like,
AJ, we've seen it, bro. We've seen it.
We've seen it. You go to sleep.
I don't think that's true. How do y'all see it if y'all on Overwatch? Y'all can't do both.
Let him know, Didge. Let him know, Didge.
I can easily have Twitter up right here as I'm playing the game.
100% not. 100% not. Nope, don't believe me.
All right. Well, this is the first episode. It was
I like that word.
A very arduous journey. It was fun though. I guess I try to throw out those SAT words. I learned what it meant like 3 days ago. I ain't gonna lie, but But until next time, I am Didge. That is Juwaan. That is AJ. I guess I could have let you guys both say your own name, but we're out. Peace.